The following podcast may be explicit. One Joe Young presents Adventures from the Shed, a tabletop RPG podcast. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com. Here's a special bonus episode for you. We're excited here at Adventures from the Shed to be taking on the Dungeons & Dragons adventure, Curse of Strahd. Mickie, JJ, Kurt, and Joe talk about what we expect. Enjoy the podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Shed for Adventures from the Shed. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com, on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, Stitcher Radio, all over the place. Definitely find us on iTunes. Give us a good rating. It helps other people find us. That's one way you can help contribute to the show. We are here for a special episode today. You may have seen through our social media notes or other comments in previous podcasts that Adventures from the Shed is about to take our shot at the Curse of Strahd campaign from Dungeons & Dragons. Kurt's
You're very excited about this.
I'm excited. I love horror, gothic horror.
So today's special preview episode is us talking about what we're getting ready to do. And for that, we're going to go around the table and say hi, starting with...
Hi, everyone. This is Mickie. And do you want us to say who we're playing, or we're going to
not
get to
yet.
that later?
We'll get to there.
That's it. Just Mickie.
JJ here. Hey, it's Kurt.
And I am Joe. I'm going to be a player in the Curse of Strahd as we get started. I'm going to kick it over to JJ, who's going to tell us a little bit about what we're going to cover today.
All right, so we're going to be playing Curse of Strahd, like Joe said, and I don't know if you listened to any of our previous games where I was very lenient about like either allowing us to roll our stats or use tons of magic and everything else. I'm sticking more toward the standard array this time. And what's going to be really interesting is the fact that we only have 3 players, and this campaign is designed for 4 players. And I think to balance that, what I'm doing is I'm going to allow the players to be all level 4 to start.
Okay.
And I think that'll help at least at first, because you'll still be a level 12 party.
Okay.
4 people level 3, 3 people level 4, same thing. Where it's going to get interesting is going up in level, going into the various areas. Strahd is set up so that it has massive amounts of replayability through the use of the tarot card deck. And we've already done the tarot card reading. I'm going to add a cinematic element to it for the first episode. But it has allowed me to start tailoring the adventure right now to the party.
Cool.
So there is that. We'll be using milestones rather than XP to advance in level. When the party defeats either a named villain, achieves a storyline furthering, a plot goal, or if the party managed to secure the ally, a named ally. I expect this to be a very difficult campaign. There's probably going to be a greater than 50% chance that somebody's going to die somewhere along the way.
Ooh, I picked Mickie. I mean, her character.
Gee, thanks. Jerk.
And for this campaign, I have essentially set the criteria that a range of characters must be met. And for that, I actually... I said we need someone who has a hit point soak, and we need somebody who can provide some method of healing. And I believe that Joe has stepped up to be the healer.
I'm going to play the cleric.
You're going to play the cleric. Mickie has stepped up to be the hit point soak. She's going to be the paladin. Yep. And then that left Kurt free to play his heart's desire.
I'll be playing a wild mage sorcerer.
A mute bard.
A mute bard. There we go.
Wild mage sorcerer.
Yeah.
I was torn between playing a rogue, kind of an assassin-type rogue, or an arcane trickster rogue, or the sorcerer, but I decided the sorcerer would be fun, particularly with the random element thrown in by the wild mage or wild magic class.
Fair enough. We will be using Roll20 to organize this campaign. It's going to be something a little bit different. I'm not sure if we're going to be doing any kind of screen capture.
We'll try and get some visual element added for people to see, yes.
But we here at the Shed, we're going to utilize a TV screen as our our map, and we'll be using tokens on the map in order to facilitate true D&D type fashion combats. It's going to be less theater of the mind, though I will still be describing, and the characters and the players will also be describing what they're doing, so that those of you who are on audio-only format won't miss a beat. That being said, because it is Roll20, I have actually purchased the maps from Mike Schley. He is the artist that made the maps for Curse of Strahd. So I actually have I've had a great deal of fun prepping those maps.
Yeah, that's
changing them from PDF format into a JPEG and uploading them into Roll20 and trying to get the map sizes to match the format. So it's been interesting.
I know as part of our getting into it, we're doing a little side thing with the Death House scenario, and we started using Roll20 with that, and I enjoyed it a bit. I actually like the ability to describe the room a little more because we can see the map.
Exactly.
So even though it may just be audio, we're still going with a map we can see, so that we can see the statue in the room. We can see the curtain according to the map, and we can talk about it and describe it that way.
Yeah, I think one of the players even said, like, I walk closer to the fireplace, and like that's an element I think that gets lost sometimes whenever, Joe first describes the room, theater of mind, and then, we're talking in character for 5 minutes, and then by that point, everyone's kind of forgotten that there's...
Were we in a room? Right.
Exactly. So I think those visual cues will help the players keep in character a little longer.
Yeah, agreed. And part of the getting ready for the campaign is a little extra work because of the Roll20, and we're going to see how it plays out for us.
I'm actually, I haven't actually discussed this with you yet, Joe, but I'm going to be doing just the monster manual. Okay. I'm not going to be incorporating other than a token to indicate the monsters on the TV. Okay. I'm not going to be loading their stats or anything.
Okay, that's cool actually.
I think it's easier. The Roll20 system isn't. I don't know. It doesn't feel as friendly to me as...
Yeah, if we were using everything as SRD and not from a campaign, it might be easier. But trying to put all the custom stuff in isn't so easy for newcomers.
And one of the options I was kind of exploring was using Fantasy Grounds to facilitate this. And that's a huge upfront cost.
Yeah, it can be up there, yeah. I think for us... the way we're going to use it, because we don't care about the rules piece. We're going to play out all the rules, make our own dice rolls and real dice so we can hear them on the table, that type of thing. Something that just gives us the map and the ability to move our tokens around is all we really need.
So I actually want to hear from the players now, the inspirations for why they chose the character classes that they chose. I know I kind of put you in a little box as far as you have to choose this type of character, and then the last guy can just choose what he wants. Why did you guys make decisions you made?
Go ahead, Kurt.
Well, I already knew that Joe was going to be playing a cleric, and I knew a little bit about his background, and I think I knew what Mickie was going to be playing as well. So I really like to try new classes and new characters, and I don't usually play the same thing over and over. Having said that, I did play a sorcerer just for a couple of episodes on the Man podcast that Joe, JJ, and I did, and I really enjoyed it, but it was complex enough that I don't feel like I got to understand it or play it fully properly. In 5th edition, Sorcerer uses mechanics with sorcery points where you can trade sorcery points for spell slots, or where you can use sorcery points to kind of overpower spells with this meta magic concept. And there's a lot of, to me, complexity there compared to some of the other classes. And so I was intrigued based on the little bit that I played in that Drow Wars adventure. Yeah. But I didn't really feel like I came even nearly close enough to say, I have really played a sorcerer. So I thought it would be a good chance to do that again. I rolled a new character. I'm not trying to use her, totally new character. And then I'm happy to go into kind of the background and what his deal is, but maybe, do you want me to do that now, or do you guys want to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to making you roll on the Wild Magic table.
I am too. So the Wild Magic is this element, for those of you who don't know, where basically every time I cast a first level spell or higher, the DM may make me roll, I think you roll a d20, and if I roll a 1, then I have to roll on the Wild Magic Surge table, which has 100 random events that happen to your character. It only happened to me that I got the 1 or that we rolled it for an effect one time in our little 3-shot adventure. But, for example, what happened to me there was I turned blue for a week.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the worst one, the one people talk about, if you're a level 1 or level 2 party, it can be really disastrous, is,
Cast
a fireball
on your feet.
Yeah, cast on your feet, centered on your party, which can literally TPK a level 1 5e party. But actually, if you look at this, and I looked at some other people who've done the analysis, there's more positive or like ambivalent to positive results than negative on the table. So it either leads to something interesting for roleplay purposes, something positive, or in some cases something really negative that you have to deal with and overcome. I mean, it can age your character, it can make your character younger, it can do all kind of weird things. It can grant bonuses or penalties. And I don't think it will come into play that often, but I did ask JJ, I said, I'd like to, if we're going to do this, basically roll that every time there's an opportunity. So, like, instead of may make me roll.
The favors fortune thing, you can give yourself advantage on an attack roll, and then you have to roll on it.
Right. So, exactly. So, that's a great thing, because the idea of a sorcerer, again, I always say for those of you who don't know, because if you're like me, and you haven't been playing your whole life, you may not know, but there's different spellcasting classes in Dungeons and Dragons. Kind of the original classic one is the wizard who studies tomes and scrolls and learns his spells and then has to practice them each morning and memorize them. The idea with a sorcerer is different. The sorcerer has kind of an innate source of magic that comes from either a bloodline or some random event that happened in his past. And the idea is it's a natural magic. It's not a studied magic. And so I like the idea that in my case, it's going to have come from a random event that was beyond my control, and so it makes sense for there to be this wild magic element to it because I didn't study it, I don't have total control over it, I don't even know exactly where it comes from, so it makes sense that I wouldn't have total control over spells when I cast them. So I think from a role-playing perspective, it makes sense with the character I want to play. From a mechanics perspective, I think it just adds this interesting, chaotic element to the game, and it'll just be fun to see what happens.
It might be neat if you just keep a special D20 handy, and just every time you cast a spell, just roll that at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
If you want it to happen all the time, just pick a D20 of a special look, maybe a big bright orange one or something like that.
And so then as far as other facts, I don't want to go too deep because I want some of it to come out during play, but I'm going to be playing a half-elf. It turns out, and this is truly not why I did it, but it turns out that's a great choice for sorcerers because they get a +2 to charisma as well as a +1 to 2 other stats, and charisma is the sorcerer's spellcasting stat. I didn't do it for that reason. I like elves, I like humans. Half-elves seemed to make sense, and it worked out well.
Min-maxing didn't even know it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not generally an optimizer, but it does work out well. And then I'm using a background that they established for the Strahd campaign called the Haunted One. And if you guys go look at it, you can find it for free on the web, or it's in the Strahd book if you buy it. And I actually went through and used the tables, as you may know from the Player's Handbook. For each character class, they have tables where you can either roll or you can choose one for a personality trait, a flaw, and I can't remember what the other one is, a bond. And then there are trinkets, and you can get a random trinket. And I really, the Haunted One background is very much customized to a gothic horror adventure. Mm-hmm. So I am going to have a monster hunter who, I won't go too far into it, but at some point in his past, he opened an Eldritch tome and saw images that were so evil. Actually, let me read exactly what it is off my sheet because it's pretty cool. There's the background. You have a harrowing event in your background, and the one I picked was I opened an Eldritch tome and saw things unfit for a sane mind. I burned the book, but its words and images are burned into my psyche.
The Necronomicon.
And so then that drives my personality trait, my ideal, my bond, and other things that.
And that also opened you to the magic.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So I see. That's right. Before that tome, I was not a sorcerer. And now I am a sorcerer, and after that, and I mean, there's more in my background that I don't want to tell, but my ideal is that I kill monsters to make the world a safer place and to exorcise my demons, and I'm tormented in the torment that I have from that act has driven away a person I love, and I strive to win back the love that I lost.
Fair enough.
So considering the wild magic, this book turned you into a sorcerer who is 5% batshit crazy. Because a roll of a 1 makes something wild happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I just, because I didn't grow up in a family of magicians or studying magic, I just don't have perfect control over it. So, and there's a little
I'd like
more
to
to
think
it
it's
than
more that you're insane, but 5% insane.
But to be honest, the harrowing event and that tome, it was more important. It's not so much that made me a sorcerer. I almost don't care about that. I mean, I could have been a sorcerer before, but that's what drove me on kind of this monster hunter, like why I would be doing what I'm doing and seeking out the things that I want to kill.
Cool.
And his
Mickie.
name is going to be Teelan. And I'll get into skills and things when we actually play. But it's going to be fun. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I love horror movies. Growing up, I loved horror movies, slasher movies. I've seen like almost every classic flick. Then as I got older, I really got into the gothic horror, Victorian stuff, Lovecraft, all of that. I never played the true Castle Ravenloft adventure, but one of the only real campaigns I remember from my youth. It was very much inspired by Ravenloft. So I'm looking forward to revisiting and playing the actual Wizards of the Coast adventure as interpreted by the great James Stevens.
The great James Stevens.
Mickie, your turn.
That ego fluffing.
Seriously.
Yeah.
You guys want a room? I will be playing... I chose this class because I've never played it before. Can you guys hear me now?
I could hear you. It was just faint. There you go.
I chose a paladin for this time around. I have never played this class before either in any of the games we've played. So when I got the list from James of things we could do, I instantly elected to choose that one. And as I tend to do, I just dusted off an old character that I used to play, Nostra, because
Nostra.
Nostradamus.
She is from the big nose in the sky.
Noctra, excuse me, Noctra. Just dusted an old character that I played in a previous campaign. So her, for I don't know how much detail you want me to share, just kind of like who she is and what her motivations are. Noctra is kind of undead. She was a soldier.
Kind of undead.
Kind of undead.
It's like being kind of pregnant.
She was a soldier, followed orders all the time. In her previous life, fell in battle and was resurrected by the Raven Queen and imbued with powers in order to seek the Raven, or to scourge the earth of all undead, essentially. That is her mission, is to scour the earth of all undead. So she works for or follows the whim of the Raven Queen, does kind of what she desires on this plane. She's her instrument on this plane.
And who is the Raven Queen?
The Raven Queen in D&D is the goddess of death, but she's the goddess of true death, and undeath is vile to her.
It's anathema, because you're not really dead. You're kind of in between.
Dead.
So that's anathema to her, so that's what Noctra does.
So Noctra in her previous game was a revenant, and a revenant is someone who's been resurrected for a goal. She's not escaping her death; it's just postponing it.
So I'm not sure how it's going to translate, because I built this character in 4th edition. It's going to be interesting to see how this translates to 5th edition. So, as always, patience with Mickie as she figures this out. Like, some of the things that, translate directly. Like, Divine Smite is something that she had, that basically anything that was undead within a certain radius of her, she knew exactly where they were, and she could just eviscerate, eviscerate? No.
Just
evaporate?
re-dead. You could re-dead.
Just
re-dead them.
Re-dead, just completely just wipe them out. But some of the other powers is going to be kind of interesting. And also playing a paladin, she's basically the tank of this party. And figuring out that mechanic and how it's going to work in combat is going to be interesting for me, I think.
Yeah, I think in the games we've played so far, Mickie, you've mainly played range-based.
Correct.
Either by casting or bow or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So getting into the thick of it is going to be interesting.
Cool. Well, we'll be playing a human cleric who I'll come up with a name before we actually start, but he doesn't have a name yet. But a human cleric, and one of the reasons I wanted to play this character was I had a personality all figured out. And when JJ mentioned he wanted a healer, I said, well, heck, I'll play the cleric then. I decided on cleric rather than bard or paladin for healing, or druid, I guess, for that matter, because I thought for the environment it made sense to have a straight cleric that would worship something exactly opposite of what we were about to get ourselves into. So I thought of the idea of the one and only deity I can always remember the name for in D&D pantheons is Pelor, god of the sun and life and healing and light and all that stuff. So with that, we built a cleric of the light domain. As we're starting at 4th level, I was able to pick a domain and get a couple of the cool stuff that goes with it, which means my guy's going to have, if I remember this right, Burning Hand, Scorching Ray, Flaming Sphere, and one other one that I keep forgetting from 1st level. But those are spells that normally aren't there for a cleric, so he's going to be all about light and flame, I think is the way I'll describe it, rather than fire, because it's a flaming sphere, whatever. But I'm thinking of everything this guy does is going to be at the command or the result of something Pelor wanted him to do. So everything is going to be driven by his devotion to Pelor, which with any luck will get on everyone's nerves pretty quick. He is going to essentially walk around with little scrolls about Pelor and try and hand them out to folks.
Oh, man.
Definitely an evangelical Pelor follower. And there will be references to books and stuff within his own religion. So the scrolls of the sun, and there'll be quotes and things that come out of that as the character tries to make sure that all the people around him understand all of the good stuff happens because of Pelor, right? If there's any light at the end of the tunnel, it is the light of Pelor. It's very important. But he will also be, with any luck, the guy who helps keep the party alive with the healing. He will definitely be focused on healing while bringing the light into the darkest places.
And this should be fun since one of my personality trait is I put no trust in divine beings.
Exactly. Exactly at odds. And that should be fun, definitely. I like to experiment with those conflicts.
Considering you have 2 divine beings in part of your party.
Yeah.
Speaking of, how are we going to be getting you guys together? Originally, the idea was that Noctra, who is part of the Death House adventure, was going to be escaping Barovia to look for more help. And we can either continue with that, or we can just have you guys be an established party. I'm curious what your guys' opinion on that is.
I think when we talked about it last, I like the idea of it. I thought it wasn't escaping, but that she becomes the Revenant by dying there and being sent back by the Raven Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
And then she realizes at that point, because of where she was, and she didn't make it the first time, that she needs help. And I don't know. We go find the bulletin board with
recruits
Noctra's,
you guys.
yeah, and we can come up with that story if we want. I think to start it, but I think that was one way that we could do it. I mean, my character would be all over trying to bring light into Barovia. That's for sure.
It would be unlikely that I would be in an ongoing party with a paladin and a cleric.
Right. It would be you'd be recruited, a mercenary almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a monster hunter, and I'm all about. So if I hear that you're trying to eradicate undead, and I wouldn't be opposed to joining you, but we wouldn't be natural friends to start.
Yeah. We'd probably show up at the recruiting office on the same day. Would be my guess.
Are we starting out now? I don't know much about the world of Barovia. Are we starting?
Barovia does not exist on any plane. You have to travel to Barovia from one of the other planes. So Barovia is its own demi-plane.
Do you get sucked in there?
Basically, yes.
Are we in Barovia when we start the adventure? And if so, is there a town or a city?
You're starting on one of the worlds.
Okay.
There's a couple different plot hooks here in the Curse of Strahd. There's the generic one. There's one where you guys are coming from the Dragonlance setting. There's one coming from the Faerun setting, Forgotten Realm setting.
Is there one that starts in a shed?
There is none that starts in a shed.
Then we're going to make that shit up.
Yes. And then there's just the generic, you guys were in a fog and you showed up in Barovia. No plot hook whatsoever.
And I think we'll figure that one out as we get started, or maybe right before we get started. In true, try to prepare for them for us. But I think it is good for us to know that, because we can start off with the regular stuff that we start off with, the character interaction, learning the different characters, and knowing where we start. That's going to help us out.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So like I said, we've already done a Tarokia reading, and that has allowed me to start preparing. I don't think anything else needs to be always said here, do we?
I was going to say, for the people at home, you talked about the replayability. Doesn't that come from the Taroka reading?
Yeah, because the Taroka reading, what it does, allows you to randomize where the different story points of the adventure are. To play, Strahd from beginning to end, it's a big book, and there's tons of things happening all over Barovia. You could play through, and you're following the story, through the Taroka deck, and never ever go to huge sections of this, because Strahd is only beatable by a level 10 party with the aid of these artifacts and allies. So there's a lot of replayability. There's a lot of uniqueness in every adventure. So choose your own adventure with a lot of uniqueness in it.
So it's pretty different from the other pre-published ones, where there may be side quests that you skip, but you're still going to hit all the main spots.
Exactly.
This one there's chapters.
Exactly. It's kind of like a game of Clue, in that you're getting to the same end goal, but you're going different ways.
Cool.
Very cool. JJ, did you want to read a beginning of something? I thought I remember.
Well, no, that's why I asked how we were going to be starting it.
Ah, okay.
Anyway, we can wait till next time on that when we sit down to play.
No problem.
Yeah.
I hope we've given enough of a teaser that people will listen.
I think so. But then again, I'm a big fan of us. So I think we're great.
Yeah, I think you might be a little
Well,
biased.
this is fun because JJ's been excited to GM a bigger adventure. I think it's a good break for Joe to play.
Sure.
I'm super excited because I like vampires and werewolves and all the things that go bump in the night.
Now, these aren't your Edward Cullen werewolves and vampires.
Yeah, these aren't the sparkly nice ones. These are the bad ones.
No, no.
We're actually
I'm
going to be
hoping a
fighting
wereshark might show up.
werepires and vamp wolves.
Yeah.
And Mickie is just always happy to be here.
I'm just along for the ride.
She is. And I wanted to close this episode with an email we got from a fan email that I think frankly we all got giddy over the email. It's such a well-written email to compliment us, and I'm actually going to read it out. You guys, if you want to react at any point during the reading, go ahead. But I'm going to read it from the start to finish. So first, this came in right at the beginning of June of 2016, and it is from a gentleman named Kurt, and it is not the Kurt that is sitting across the table from me here.
It is not.
And the email reads as follows. Dear Shed Dwellers, my name is Kurt, and I live, teach, and game in Tennessee. Let me start by saying that I normally don't send fan mail, but I realize now that this may be due to the fact that I haven't ever been a true fan of any product produced by real, actual people other than a corporate entity. I'm reevaluating my taste in products produced by corporate entities. I started listening to your podcast with the episode Skeleton Pig Pile on Stitcher Radio, and I haven't been disappointed yet by a single full episode, despite some episodes on Stitcher either not playing over correctly or missing entirely, which hasn't happened for a long time. While I have played and GM'd games in systems like D&D, World of Darkness, and Multiverser, it was the Skeleton Pig Pile and the rest of your podcast that opened my eyes to the best game I've heard for both collaboration and freedom, Dungeon World. Additionally, I heard on a few episodes that you do take requests for sidebar episodes and suggestions for potential games to play. And he lists a couple of things here. A, Joe, as Game Master, I find one of the most difficult things is to organize my notes during setup and gameplay. I would be very interested in seeing your and other GMs' methods in a YouTube sidebar to showcase how you and other GMs choose to organize your notes. B, I recently read an article about a game called Microscope, and I will purchase from a local gaming store as soon as it arrives. I think your group would probably enjoy playing it. It's another collaborative world builder that is sometimes used in conjunction with Dungeon World. Regardless of these 2 requests being fulfilled or not, I will continue to listen and eagerly await your weekly episodes. Finally, I wanted to thank the main cast for what you do. I want to thank Joe for his insight and openness to create a collaborative space for individuals to explore their creativity and showing that to the world. I want to thank Brittany and Mickie for not taking anybody's shit and for representing what genuine players should aspire to be, fearless. I want to thank Kurt for having the balls to fail frequently. And I want to thank JJ for Strong Dawn and Calamity, 2 of the most original characters I've had the pleasure of witnessing. I'll keep incense burning for Strong Dawn until his return. Thank you all for such an informative and amazing show. Sincerely, Kurt.
Oh,
What a great email to receive. I mean, this is something that helps us keep going. It's good to know that people appreciate these things we're doing here.
it's nice to know that people are listening.
Yeah, so big shout out to Kurt. Thank you very much for the email. I hope you enjoyed us reading it on the air here. And as a couple of the, as one of the requests or suggestions that he gave, I've already been talking with the other members of the cast, and I am going to be putting together a YouTube sidebar, essentially a short series of how we prepared for and ran our Alamon campaign. So look for that soon up on YouTube, probably within the summer this year. And we'll be referencing real-world examples, our notes, our exchanges of emails, things that we actually used to prepare, and how they really worked out. So that hopefully that helps out with that request. In the meantime, I think we're going to be wrapping up here with our Strahd preview, which will be coming out right before we launch our Curse of Strahd campaign at Adventures from the Shed. Anyone want to add anything else?
We got it.
As always, thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
And then from here, we'll just say...
Bye!
Bye!
No people.
We'll keep your chair ready for you in the shed, so come on back for the next episode where we officially kick off the main campaign for Curse of Strahd. We look forward to having you along for another ride. Thanks for joining us. The preceding podcast was brought to you by One Joe Young. You can find us online at adventuresfromtheshed.com.